The Borg collapsed
To
in
Charlie.
the floor. Q smiled. He seemed awfully pleased with himself. Funny, at that
Majority
moment,
of sectors
even
under
I
our
began
control.
to think it was Doc Quinn.
Our troops are moving on Bravo 2.
The Borg cube began to pull away. The captain jumped into action.
Match speed, keep us within close range.
Remember, Sprint should have died right here. Everything you do in his place from this moment on changes history. Invigorating, isn't it? Meddling with fate.
But all I could think about was time. I had 4 hours before the Righteous was destined to explode. 4 hours to figure out what I was supposed to do to save the ship. To save my father.
The Russians control Sector Alpha.
I knew Q wasn't going to tell me. Counselor Baraka began to stare into my eyes. I thought for a moment that he could see through the illusion and knew I wasn't really Lieutenant Sprint. I should have known better. Q's illusions are reality.
Lieutenant, are you all right?
My father walked up to me and
report.
patted me on the shoulder.
We're executing the plan, holding sectors.
Nothing scares him.
And nothing hurts him, isn't that right, Lieutenant?
There are all kinds of pain, Lieutenant. Don't let the fact that you are Bajani prevent you from acknowledging the hurt.
Oh, please.
Bijani.
We are engaging at
My
Bravo
dad
1.
used to talk about Sprint's Bijani
We
abilities.
capture Bravo 2.
Baraka's comment made me wish I had spent more time in the Academy Species Library and learned a little more about the Bijani race, since I was going to be a Bijani for at least another 4 hours.
Captain, coded message coming in from Admiral Hansen. He's ordering us to proceed with all speed to rendezvous with the rest of the fleet at Wolf 359, requesting us not to engage the Borg. Until then, maintain radio silence until contacted.
Helm laying a course for Wolf 359. Pull ahead of the Borg cube and then match speed. Aye, sir.
I wanted to ask a question, but I was afraid to speak. Afraid my
Our
voice
forces
would give
control
away my
most
secret,
sectors.
that I wasn't really Lieutenant Sprint. But I knew I couldn't stay silent for the next
Hostiles
4
attacking
hours.
Bravo 1.
I turned to the captain.
Sir? What about the dead Borg?
My voice didn't sound any different to me, but no one else seemed to notice. I guess to them, I looked like Sprint and sounded like him too. The captain looked over at Targus.
Targus, get that thing off my bridge.
Yes, sir.
Targus started to lift the Borg. That's when I noticed it. For the first time, Targus had some kind of circuitry attached to her forehead. I wondered what it was for. Suddenly, the dead Borg came back to life. It grabbed Targus and began to interface with the tactical console. It was trying to take over
Allied
control.
troops attacking Bravo 2.
Security alert!
Shoot her! Shoot her!
Our troops have lost Bravo
He
1.
was telling me to shoot Targus. There must be a reason. So I did.
Hostiles have taken Bravo 1.
Suddenly, everything
The
froze,
enemy has Sector Bravo.
except for Q. He seemed a little upset.
If I told you to jump into a Signian vortex, would you do it? You're a sentient being of sorts. Try using this. You know, all this space-time manipulation does take some effort on my part. It's not that easy. I'd appreciate it if you'd make a little effort, too.
Staging
Q
attack on
waved
Bravo
his
1.
hand, and once again, time shifted. I jumped back in time. This time, only a few moments. The dead Borg had just come back to life and was holding the struggling Targus in his hands. I wondered how many chances Q would give me. How many mistakes it would take before Q would just let the Righteous get vaporized, and me along with it. Well, if he was giving me a second
We've lost
chance,
control of
I
Bravo
wasn't going
2.
to make the same mistake twice. I knew shooting Targus wasn't going to help, so I shot the console.
Bravo 3 is secure.
It shorted out.
They're a long way from surrender, but they're wounded.
I'm okay.
The Borg was hit by a surge of energy and fell into a heap on the floor.
Definitely dead this time.
Then get him definitely off my bridge this time. Mr. Sprint, reconfigure your security console so you can control Tactical B. And meet me down at the computer core. I want to secure this ship in case the Borg try and board us again. Good shooting.
Thanks.
How about quick thinking, Quinn? Good work, Quinn. Nobody ever gives me any credit for anything I do.
That's because we don't
Bravo 1
like you,
under
Quinn.
assault by
I
Allied
think we
forces.
can all save our hostility for the Borg, where it will be better placed, don't you?
Let me ask you something, Baraka. Do you just spout these platitudes, or are you deluded enough to actually believe in them?
Come on, Quint. No matter how hard you try, you're not going to change my
Sector
mind.
Charlie
I
under
still
Russia control.
like you.
Kiss me.
Thank you!
I looked across the bridge at my father. I wanted to run to him, tell him who I was, about all that has happened to me since he died. But I realized
under
that
Allied
wouldn't be
control.
too smart. When he looks at me, he sees Lieutenant Sprint, his old academy buddy.
Hey, Sprint. What, are you having one of your Bajani trances?
I looked away, embarrassed, and set about reconfiguring the security panel.
Russians have control of most
It took me a lot
sectors.
longer than it would have taken Sprint, but hey, I wasn't really Sprint. I was only a second-year cadet. Then I headed for the computer core room. When I got off the turbo lift, I was in an empty corridor. I realized I was lost. Suddenly,
Enemies at Bravo 3.
Q was floating in front of me.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting the difficulty of dealing with your
Doing their
limited
best to make this
humanoid
costly.
mind. If it's not right in front of you, you don't notice it. I've given you a tool to see beyond the superficial veneer of reality to a deeper level of knowledge and understanding. And you ignore it. I should be hurt. But then again, I'm not the one who
One of
keeps
our
getting
objectives
killed.
has been lost.
Kill?
We just took Sector
What is
Alpha.
that supposed to mean? Q? Q! What is that? But Q just smiled like
Bravo
a Cheshire
3 has been
cat
taken by the
and
enemy.
disappeared. I consulted the tricorder Q had given me and found my way to the computer core room. Sorry I'm late, Captain. Lieutenant Furlong. What have you got?
We were trying to route
Bravo
all
1
the
is
ship
under
controls
attack.
through the security systems as an extra precaution, but something kept rejecting all of our attempts to access the security programs. And that's when we found this.
He pointed to a small metallic device implanted on the computer core routing system. The design, the display, everything about it was classic Borg design.
It's obviously Borg. But how did it get on the ship? And what is its purpose?
It seems to be tied in directly to the security systems, locking us out.
Question is, how do we remove it? Sprint, you're the security officer. What do you think?
It looked pretty simple to me. I took a cutting tool and severed its connection to the computer.
One of our objectives is under attack.
It seemed like the logical choice.
Self-destruct initiated.
What the hell? Computer aboard self-destruct.
Self-destruct in 10 seconds.
Bridge, override all security systems.
I can't, Captain!
5 seconds.
I'm locked out!
4, 3, 2, 1.
Great. I'd managed to obliterate the righteous. This was not going well. I was supposed to save these people, not kill them. I found myself in Q's white space again. Floating, unaware of time and dimension.
Meddling with things you don't understand again? You know, I think I'm learning something here. That's what I don't like about you people. Your ignorance of the working of the galaxy is unparalleled, and yet you continue to blunder ahead as if you knew what were going on. The Borg, on the other hand, really seem to know what they're about.
We've taken an
Only
objective.
they have more personality. In fact, if they had any personality, I might consider spending more time with them. But for now, don't touch what you don't understand.
Majority of sectors under our
And
control.
I was back in the computer core room, 5 minutes earlier, replaying the moments before I blew up the ship. with my
Bravo
careless
2
decision.
under Russian attack.
We were trying to route all of the ship's controls through the security systems as an extra precaution, but something kept rejecting all of our attempts to access the security programs. And that's when we found this.
This was beginning to sound familiar.
It's obviously Borg. But how did it get on the ship? And what is its purpose?
It seems to be tied in directly to the security systems, locking
Bravo
us
2
out.
lost.
Question
We're no
is, how do
longer
we
in
remove
control.
it? Sprint, you're the security officer. What do you think?
We've lost an objective to the
This
enemy.
time, I knew better. I told them we didn't know enough about it to try to disengage it.
Mr. Sprint is right. Until we know more about Borg technology, I don't think we should make any attempts to interfere with the implant directly.
Captain, we were within transporter range for only 6.7 seconds. I don't see how the Borg transported to the bridge.
The resources are at 50%.
Unless...
Is it possible 2 Borg transported onto the ship?
Bravo 3 target is allies attacking now.
Screen against our usual senses. I'll get targets to scan against anomalies. See what you can do to help.
Ensign Targus, Lieutenant Furlong, and I huddled over a console on the bridge. Targus kept tuning and tuning. The scanners were recalibrated within microns. Targus sure had a knack for this. I'd never seen anyone so thorough.
We've taken Bravo 2.
You've got the scans so sensitive they're going to alert us if a particle of dust falls.
If that particle of dust falls off a Borg, then I want to know about it.
You're too cautious.
You're too lax.
Sprint,
Tell
tell
him.
You know, if it weren't for me, you guys wouldn't have had any fun at the academy.
If it weren't for me, you guys wouldn't have graduated from the academy. Reloading!
Targus put her hand to her forehead, covering that circuitry device I had noticed earlier. She looked embarrassed by it, like she was trying to hide it, or hide what it represented.
What?
Lieutenant Furlong, Lieutenant Sprint, and Ensign Targus. Somehow that's not quite how I pictured it.
That's not your fault. Every time I see that thing, it reminds me of how much courage it must have taken for you just to be here. And of how much we both owe Sprint.
Charlie objectives under control. Sector secure.
I liked this feeling.
They're
The
attacking
3
one
of
our
us
sectors.
together. I was
We have
beginning to
majority
feel like I
control of the
belonged.
sectors.
Then Doc Quint walked up. Well, to everyone else he looked like Doc Quint.
it!
But at least I knew it was Q.
What exactly do you all?
Our troops have
Spend the
lost
rest
an
of your life a
objective.
slave to technology.
I'm not a slave to it. In 6 months, a year at the most, I won't even need this.
In 3 hours, 4 at the most, we won't even be alive. Unless we're Borg.
Then Quint walked away from us. I wondered, was that Quint talking? Or was that really Q trying to tell me something? Reminding me that I
Our
only
troops
had a
are
few
moving on
hours
Bravo
left
2.
to figure out how to save this ship.
Dr. Quinn is testing the boundaries of the humanoid ability to maintain affection for him, which he thinks he's not worthy of. So what he does is he tries...
We've lost control of an objective.
Well, he's very good.
We could end up as one. And I know the last thing I want to have happen to me is...
An objective has fallen to the Russians.
We won't let it happen. To any of us, better dead than Borg. Agreed? Even Quint.
Not even Quint deserves to be Borgified. But the Borg definitely deserve Quint.
We got him. Somewhere in Jeffrey's Tube 6.
Sprint, Furlong. Take a couple of fully charged phasers, flush out the Borg, and neutralize them. Understood?
Yes, sir.
My
We've
dad,
captured all of Sector
Lieutenant
Charlie.
Furlong, headed
One of
into
our
the Jeffries
objectives has been
tube.
attacked.
He's been through here. Magnetic resonance traces. Okay, one of us has to go, but somebody should stay. In case he went through and doubled back.
I'll go through the corridor, and then...
Whoa, 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 whoa. I said one of us, I didn't say you.
All right. Watch your back. Watch yours. And Lieutenant Furlong slipped
lost
into the
control of an
corridor and out of
objective.
sight. Suddenly, there was a voice in my ear.
Bad idea.
Enemy has secured an objective.
I turned. It was a Borg. No, it wasn't the Borg. It was Q. For a moment, I thought maybe Q had been captured and turned into a Borg. But of course, that would be impossible. Nothing happens to Q unless he wants it to happen.
You see, there is another Borg, and he's waiting in the corridor for whoever comes out first. Poor old Dad. I hope you don't feel guilty.
We are securing
I
objective
turned
Charlie
back
1.
to the corridor.
We now
There
hold
he
Sector
was.
Alpha.
Furlong. Dad. They'd gotten to him. He was...
Our forces control most sectors.
I shot at him, but he put up a shield to protect himself.
Good try, but you see, the Borg are clever in their own monolithic way. They adjust 2 hits from any phaser, and they all know how to shield themselves against that frequency.
Q grabbed my phaser and adjusted the frequency to a higher EM band.
You have to adjust along with them.
Then he shot me through the furlong.
No! He's dead.
You shot him.
Charlie 2 is under
You
attack.
did say you wanted to kill Borg, didn't you? I like the irony of it. But aren't you forgetting someone or something?
Yes, I had. The other Borg. Before I realized it, he was next to me, shoving his cyborg arm into my neck. Everything went black.
Rise and shine. Rise and shine. If it looks like a Borg, walks like a Borg, and sees like a Borg, then it must be a Borg.
I saw a sensor display everywhere I looked.
Sector Bravo is in
It
enemy
was in
hands.
some language I'd never seen before, but somehow I understood it. Voices. Millions of voices speaking to me, filling my head. I felt compelled to obey. Suddenly I understood. I was now a Borg.
No Borg is an island unto himself. Every Borg is part of the whole.
Everywhere I looked, I was flooded with information. Information I could have used against the Borg. If only
We're down to
I
50%
weren't now
strength.
one of them.
Do you hear that? Filling your mind,
Charlie
telling you
2
what
is
to
under
think,
attack.
what to do.
New
Welcome
objective
to the
under
collective,
control.
Cadet.
We've
One
captured
voice
Sector
came
Charlie.
to me clearly. Above all others, the orders were meant for me alone.
Time to go assimilating.
I followed the voices in my head, screaming at me, assimilate,
Failed to hold Charlie 2.
destroy. And I headed to the bridge to do just that, to find my comrades and kill them. I didn't want to, but I couldn't stop myself. My every step was controlled by the will of the collective. What I wanted didn't matter anymore. I stepped out of the turbolift onto the bridge. Everyone saw me, saw that I had become a leader.
The Russian forces have been decimated.
What have they done?
They tried their phasers. It was no use,
Hostiles are trying to seize one of our
They've adapted
objectives.
to the frequency settings of our phasers.
so I raised my weapon level. Killed them all.
Captain!
Our forces have secured Sector Charlie.
Don't feel bad.
All
though.
hostiles
If it ever
retreating.
goes to trial, you can always
You've earned your
blame
rep
the
today, no
collective
pats.
when you do it. This time, try not to get caught.
There we go again, I thought. If at first you don't succeed, Q will let you try again. I was back in Jeffrey's Tube 6 with my father, searching for the second Borg. I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let my dad, Lieutenant Furlong, go into that corridor. This time, it'd be me.
He's been through here. Magnetic resonance traces. Okay, one of us has to go, but someone should study in case he went through a double back.
I'll go through the corridor, and then...
Whoa. I said one of us, I didn't say you.